Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
It's okay. I didn't mean to scare you.
It seems like everybody's complaining about the Silent Hill 2 remake trailer from Konami today, and I can't blame them. From the robotic movements of the characters to the overall fluctuations of the graphics that we're seeing, this looks like a PS3 game, and I think the complaints from the people that were expecting a next generation title are valid. But beyond that, some of the character models are egregious and ugly and just terrible, downright terrible. I think specifically people are talking about Angela and her overall model, where there's a complete reshaping of her face and overall look that is putting people off to this game. I think this is one of the many troubles that we're seeing with Silent Hill, where it's becoming an action game with these kind of deformed models for the characters, and I think this is pushing people off from Silent Hill. Looking at this production picture, it looks like Angela looks dramatically younger. People are saying she looks her age, but I think it just looks like a different character. Even just the apprehension and look on her face, it just doesn't suit the character that we remember, at least the look of the character. I think this is pushing people off, and this is making people convinced that we're not getting the type of Silent Hill remake that we were expecting, something that understands Silent Hill. And I think these are the complaints people have been having with a lot of the content coming out about Silent Hill, where we're just not getting the same vibe and feel of the game. And you can see that with the action scenes that they put into the trailer, where this looks like a Resident Evil 2 remake game, where it's constant action. This doesn't look like the same kind of David Lynch Twin Peaks style type of game where you're trying to avoid chaos. And I think that's the thing people are saying that is happening with this game, that is just not the same feel and ambience. And I think that may be the case. It may be a different game that is just not trying to placate to the hardcore fan base that is clamoring for this game, is going for the Resident Evil market, and I can't really blame them for that. I understand why the developer Konami is going for that. They're really based on the profits they make from the game. They're really doing things based on what they can make from these type of games, and Resident Evil is the type of game that they're trying to match now. But going back to the character models, it's just ugly. It looks like something from PS3. A lot of the models that they did use just don't really reflect the characters themselves, and I think that's the thing people are complaining about, where we're looking at a character that looks completely different from her original look. And I know people are comparing it to someone that got stung by a bunch of bees, and this is the picture they're comparing it to, and I have to say there is some similarities to that. But if you look back to the original picture of Angela, it just doesn't really look like the same character, and I think other people are trying to gloss over it because of the age, saying, oh, maybe she looks more her age. I can understand that, but why the low graphic quality output, where it does decidedly look like a PS3 game? Just the animations, the movements of the characters, it just doesn't feel as fluid as we would expect from a next generation title. It's just showing kind of low effort that they're putting into this game, and maybe they're just looking for a profit initially, and that's the whole case of developing this game. Of course, that's the case of developing any game, but it feels like they don't have any sense or sensibilities of what Silent Hill was made to be, and I think that's the thing that is annoying people. And also people are just annoyed with the disfigurement of a lot of female characters within the video game markets, because we've seen this happen to multiple female characters where they used to have thin faces, they used to be thin, beautiful, curvaceous. Now they're flat bodies with giant jaws and puffed up chins and cheeks, and I think this is a kind of an example of that. And people are saying, oh, okay, here we go again. They want to uglify the female character models again, and this is the process people are going with. Even though I don't think she's that ugly at all, it is a stark difference where people can see the difference in characters, and I'm thinking maybe they're trying to go for a different vibe from the character, make it more innocent, more young and precocious. I could see that element where they didn't do this with the intention of pushing progressive social politics into their games. They thought they were going for a different angle where we want a different emotion from the character, and I can understand that if that was their angle, but that doesn't give them freedom to make a low quality game. And I think that's what we're seeing with this game. It looks low quality, and I think the complaints are stemming from that. And you can look at assets from Silent Hill from over 20 years ago that look better than this character, and you're wondering, like, who is working on this game where we're developing characters that look subsequently more dated than 20-year-old characters. I think that is the thing that is getting on people's nerves with the current games development sphere, where they're producing content that looks quintessentially dated compared to to some previous graphics over 20 years ago. You can see this with the Arkham series, where you see Kill the Justice League, you compare it to any Arkham game, those Arkham games look substantially better. I think that's the thing that we're seeing now within the video game industry, whereas these developers are reverting their usage of graphics in some cases. And maybe this is reflecting on the budgetary reasons of producing these games. I know making highly graphically powered games is expensive, and if that is the case where they want to save money on the graphics that they're including in the game, I can't really blame them. I'm fine with that as long as they produce a good game. But I'm hesitant that they are producing a good game, because you're seeing elements that you would never see in a Silent Hill game, like huge button smashing, quick time events. This makes it feel dated as well. To have these obvious kind of quotes on the walls, I know there's graffiti and elements like that in Silent Hill. I played at least 2 Silent Hill games, but they were more abstract and far out and strange and creepy in a more David Lynch Twin Peaks style. That's why I'm saying, like, this is just too straightforward, and it feels like we don't have the same people making this game, or maybe they're going for a different direction in the remake, but it just doesn't feel like it's being made by people that love Silent Hill. And I think the original creators is executive producing it. Maybe they're not as hands-on as people may have hoped, because it feels like we're getting something that is just not in the same vein of Silent Hill. Like, these characters, these monsters are supposed to be more elusive, not as straightforward button smashing heads and doing Leon Kennedy type of actions within Silent Hill. So it's just out of this world in the Silent Hill territory. And of course, everyone's going to be talking about Angela for the most part, because she just looks completely different from what we saw before. And I think her voice is the thing people are frustrated with too, where it just feels like she doesn't sound like the same character. You can see that with the character themselves while they speak. It just feels like it's a more deeper, raspier voice. And I think that may be an element of them trying to stick to a different emotional arc with the character and trying to reflect that on the character model. But it could just be the typical social progressive stereotype of some ugly people within the consultancy firms that are consulting Konami over this game. They want someone that looks decidedly more uglier, and that usually is the case in the video game industry. So I can't really blame people for considering that is the case with Silent Hill, but I think it's a possibility. I can't blame people for thinking like that, because that happens so frequently in the video game industry, where you see people in the HR, the DEI departments of these game studios that come in and say, hey, she has to be uglier because she has to look like me, and then we have a character that looks hideous to the gamers. And I think this is maybe the result of that. I don't think it's that hideous, but I think that happens often in the video game. So people have a right to question if that is the case with Silent Hill, the remake, and I think it may be a possibility, but they have ruined her look. But I think she looks good enough in some cases, like here. I think she looks okay here, but that's the only scene where I saw where she looks okay. And this may be like a really doctored look here, so it's not the in-game graphics. You look at the in-game graphics, she looks like this. Let's go over a picture. She looks like this all the time. So it is a big difference. And the animations are just not smooth. But you tell me what you think about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Do you think they ruined Angela? Do you think it's a DEI problem? I think it may be they're just looking for a different emotional look that matches her state rather than how she looked before. But regardless of the situation, she doesn't look that well in this trailer. You leave your thoughts. Tell me what you think about the situation. Like, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.